Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here. I hope you're happy, healthy and well. It is time for a new book review today where I share some life lessons out of books that I have been reading. Now, for those of you who have been following or subscribed to my channel, you know that I read many and varied books. Books from my bookshelf, books that I borrow from the library, also books that I buy secondhand from independent booksellers. I like to support the independent booksellers. This time round it is another library book, and I've still left all the post-it notes of areas that have made me sit and think in this book. We are talking today about Amanda Lowry, who is an Australian author. The book called The Labyrinth, a Pastoral. It was published in 2020, and I found out about this book from another YouTuber, Anna, who talked about it on her channel. It was enough to make me quite intrigued about the book, and I wanted to read a book that kind of sucked me in with beautiful writing and was more of a quiet meditation more than anything. And what she had to say about The Labyrinth was pretty much spot on, and I wanted to find out more about it, so I borrowed the book. I highly recommend that you follow her channel, and I've got her details there below in the description so you can also support her channel. So The Labyrinth, let's talk about some life lessons that I learnt from here and what this book is about. This book is about an older woman, and we can assume that she would be in her 70s, and her name is Erica Marsden, and she moves to this coastal town far away from people and the city so that she could be closer to her son. And we find out her son is a tortured artist. In fact, he did torch his entire studio. Unbeknownst to him, living above his studio was some people, and so he killed them in the process as well. But he's a bit of a mad one. He's someone who is insane, I would say. He's very violent, and I think she moves to this coastal town to be close to him, but also to somehow establish a connection and try and find out why he turned out the way he did. Now, I'm saying that simply because it's my interpretation as to why she would move so close to be close to him. So in some way, I think that this book is really about a woman of a certain age who leaves her life behind and goes and tries to live by herself close to her son in order to try and understand more about her son and why he turned out the way he did. He is a tortured artist. He's trying to find meaning in his work, and it's coming out as quite violent in its manner and quite obsessive in his manner, and she's trying to find more meaning about why he might be like this, why he turned out this way. And she gleans from it, it might be due to his need to find a father relationship in his life, and in so doing she thinks about all the other relationships she has with the men in her life, from her father, her husbands, from people who seem to come into her life, and also young men in her life. In this coastal town, she buys this very derelict house, and she wants to build a labyrinth. And the labyrinth she wants to build is something that is made out of natural products, out of the natural environment. She doesn't even want it to be permanent. But we glean from the book that she's trying to find some meaning. However, she doesn't know how to start or where to start. She has some books, she looks through the designs, and she comes up with a particular seed pattern. In her life comes this illegal immigrant who's a bit of a vagabond in the town, and a bit of a greenie, I would say, as well, with long hair, matted hair. No one really wants him to be around them, but she finds out that he works with his hands and is able to build this labyrinth for her. And so together they sit down and they come up with a design, and they come up with the materials, and he slowly builds this structure for her which she loves. We find out more about this worker, this illegal immigrant. We establish that he's trying to get away from the law in some way, but is also someone who has his own demons, but he's willing to help Erica build this labyrinth. When Erica builds this labyrinth, she is trying to find some meaning, some kind of purpose in her life. The way I understand it is that she gets away from the busyness, gets away from the city to go and try and find some meaning as to what she has done or how she has done her son badly in some way, to try and find out why he needs this connection with the father and how she hasn't met that need for him. The labyrinth represents some kind of purpose. So let's talk about some life lessons that I've gleaned out of this book, and there are a few, and there are indeed some also alignments out of my own life. The very first life lesson I got out of it was this difference between a labyrinth and a maze. I had no idea that they're two separate things. A labyrinth has one entry and one exit point. Its entire existence, its entire reason is for you to be able to get into this structure and to find your way to the center. And once you reach the center, you've identified or you've come up with some meaning or some purpose. It solves an issue for you. Whereas a maze has different entry and exit points, and there are obstructions, and the whole idea of a maze is meant to confuse you. Now, I mentioned that there are some alignments to my life, and it's done in a few ways. The very first way is it also talks about some Greek words, and the protagonist in this book indeed talks about the meaning of labyrinth, the connection and the etymology of the word lavris, which is a Greek word, and also the connection I have to my own heritage, being of Cretan heritage. Crete is the largest island in Greece, which you may or may not know has the Minoan civilization, which was the first, I guess, indicator of labyrinths being in Greek mythology, with the Minotaur being hidden away in the labyrinth by King Minos. And so I had to smile at all these little connections of being able to understand the Greek words and also learning more about the differences between labyrinths and mazes, and understanding that the protagonist here really wanted a labyrinth in order for her to go on some spiritual journey to the center of this labyrinth that she has created, and then find some meaning and purpose as to why she hasn't got this good connection with her son and why he turned out to be that way. And also, I think, why she has these connections and these odd relationships with the men in her life. There is an unwritten and unexpressed story about the role of her brother here as well, the brother Axel, that we don't know much about, and who she grew up with in a mental institution. Not that she was a patient, but her father was a psychiatrist who was murdered by one of the patients. Find out that there's some unexpressed story in here that she needs to make amends with her brother as well. What are some of the other life lessons I learnt? As well as having this kind of dreamy quality of the book and the beautiful writing, it is very much a devotional, and it reminded me a lot of Charlotte Wood's writing, and in particular Charlotte Wood's latest book called A Stoneyard Devotional, which I also review here on this channel. It is about older women escaping from the madness of their lives and going somewhere far away from people, to try and make sense out of their lives by doing something. And in this doing something, the protagonist here builds her labyrinth in order to establish that meaning. Another big theme that I learned in this book is about time, about the valuable use of idle time. In this crazy world, we need to have our time allocated, planned, scheduled, and there's a level of peace and spirituality that goes with not having that planned time. The Greek word for that planned time is chronos, but she also talks about another unestablished or unplanned time, and the Greek word for that is kairos. And in Greek, kairos is basically when it comes to you, when time comes to you, it is that time for you to do something. I have Kairos now. I have time in my life of retirement to really explore a lot of things and try and make meaning out of them. In my time, in my Kairos here, I am trying to create art myself. If you call YouTube videos artworks, I'm basically trying to do something with my time and with my hands in order to be able to express something that might be of value to other people, to might hopefully give them meaning, whether that meaning is to start reading books and delve into the books and try and delve some education out of fiction that comes into your hands. Does it mean anything? I don't know, but I have the Kairos. I have the time to be able to do that. It is time that is unplanned. It is time that I don't schedule. A lot of the times I don't know what the hell I'm doing when I create these YouTube videos, much in the same way that the protagonist here has so much time on her hands, and she wants to create some kind of meaning, so she creates the labyrinth. Similarly, she also talks about this view of a tortured artist. And I guess one of the lessons I learned in here was the fact that maybe artists don't have the answers. Artists are there to create something. Artists have the Kairos. Artists have the unplanned time. Artists make time in order for them to use their hands to create something that allows us to derive some meaning, whether their art is paintings or whether their art is the written word through books, whether art is somehow the creation of some kind of sculpture like the labyrinth. Ultimately, artists are there. They don't hold the answers. They simply allow us to find the answers within ourselves through their artworks, whatever that artwork might be. These are my life lessons for this wonderful book called The Labyrinth by Amanda Lowry. I highly, highly recommend it if you want a slow read, if you want a read that makes you think about your own transformational and spiritual journey that you might be on. It is a wonderful book, and I would say I would highly recommend it. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. Bye for now.